Weapons is the latest horror movie directed by Zach Cregger. We follow a teacher named Justine who, after showing up to work one day, realizes her entire class is missing. For some reason, these students woke up at 2:17 a.m. and just walked off into the middle of the night, never to be seen again. From here, everyone in the town, from parents, police officers, and this teacher, are trying to figure out what happened to these kids. And that's all. Putting aside any spoilers, you guys, this will be a spoiler-free review. I do think I'm tempted to make a spoiler review once the movie's released, not during this video, because I think there's a lot of things I want to get off my chest that I'm just gonna have to dance around in this review. But when I first heard about Weapons and its premise, it easily became one of my most anticipated horror movies of this year, even more so with director Zach Cregger. I really ended up loving Barbarian when that came out. I know that's a movie that not everybody got into, that some were kind of taken back to where the story went, the surprise twists and turns of it, and I think honestly, that's not going to be all that much different when it comes to Weapons. I do really want to say, I think this is a movie you want to go in as blindly as possible, so I am going to try to be as vague as possible in this review, but starting off with the things I really did enjoy, because overall, I do really like this movie. I don't know if I'm actually as high on it as a lot of other people. The build up to this movie from people who've already seen it in some of the earlier reviews, we're calling this like the best horror movie this year, and you might very well feel that way once you walk out. I don't think I felt that way coming out, but dang, did I have a blast of a time, and I think this was a really interesting movie to see unfold. That's where I want to start off with Zach Cregger, the director, because I think he has a really great knack for creating this suspenseful, dreary mystery. I mean, all we really knew when it came to Barbarian is that two strangers accidentally double booked an Airbnb, and they just have to be okay with maybe sharing that, and something goes awfully wrong. That's all we were given as far as trailers and information went, and when you see the movie, there was a lot they hid from us. There was so much to unpack, so many different twists and turns, and Weapons is able to keep that same mystery in its marketing and trailers. The entire premise and what you know about this movie, about with kids that don't show up to the classroom, disappeared at 2:17 a.m. in the middle of the night, this town that hates the teacher. No joke, that is all set up within like the first minute, 2 minutes into the movie. It breezes by the setup for this film just so you can get right to the compelling characters, the mystery, and some of the twists and turns this film is going to take. And now Zach Cregger pulling off this kind of really interesting, unexpected direction that a movie goes easily is going to be one of the directors I'm most interested to see when they make a movie, because it feels like I'm going to get something original. I'm going to get something refreshing. Whether I end up loving the direction of the story, the characters, and even the end result will be a different thing, but I can see why some people are so high on this film, because it is very different than what is usually put out. This doesn't feel like a conventional movie. Even the story structure in itself is something we've seen in other movies. It takes the route of giving you the perspective of each character, even of the same day, repeating moments, and then getting insight into what they were doing from the other person's perspective. That kind of unique story structure, I think, ended up really helping keep the mystery of what's going on with these kids and what ended up happening so compelling to watch and unfold. Weapons, I think, is also filled with just a great cast. You have Julia Gardner, that we just saw as the Silver Surfer, but she's this teacher now dealing with all this hate because the town just thinks she's behind it, that she must have done something wrong in that classroom for all the kids to disappear. Josh Brolin gives us the perspective of the father who's just angry and wants answers. Also very happy to see someone like Alden Ehrenreich. I can never say his last name right, but he plays a cop in this movie, and he had some interesting tidbits. Same with Benedict Wong. Like, all the cast members do a good job and add something to the story. I was also even a little surprised with the tonal shifts this movie sometimes took. I saw it in a packed theater. It was an early press screening. That always has people in the best of mood to watch this movie, and well, people were eating it up, whether it was through some couple of jump scares, some of the gruesome moments, and probably the ones that got the most reaction was some of the humor in the movie. There's actually a sprinkle of like really funny moments. I'm not gonna say the entire movie is funny or that it's jumping back and forth too much from horror and comedy, but in those moments of levity where the humor is allowed to be there, I thought worked really well. Some might find it awkward because I think it does play into that awkward feeling and kind of the ridiculous factor of what you're seeing going down on screen, but some of those tonal shifts didn't bother me. Zach Cregger also built a great amount of dread dread and suspense in this movie as you're trying to uncover the mystery and you're starting to piece together certain moments and story beats. Although there are a couple of standout gory moments and things that are going to make you go, oh, dude, that was sick. A lot of what's unsettling and creepy about the movie just comes in somebody walking down the middle of the street in the dead of night. Other times it's Benedict Wong with a red face and bulging eyes. It's not all just jump scares, although there are some jump scares in here. The creepy factor of what happened to these kids and who's behind it, I think is actually unsettling. And like, I really want to say more and compliment some of the stuff that is behind the mystery with the kids, because there is a great antagonistic role in this movie. Like, there is a person in this film that I found to be a really good antagonist. I just don't want to say too much else, and it's just so nice that that part of the movie wasn't really showcased a lot, and it's still even going to be a surprise once it gets unfolded into the movie. So like, really, again, this was such a blast to watch and see unfold. I'm gonna get on some things though I'm mixed to negative about. Like I said, I feel like I'm just not gonna be as high on this movie as other people are. Couple of those reasons being is, although I do like the story structure and the way they unfold the mystery, because it does help with that suspenseful, dreadful feeling of like, dang, what happened? Is that person behind it? Was it because of this? What? Oh, it does get to a point where it feels like the pacing is a little off and the movie is dragging and almost kind of dangling the carrot with the information. When the movie is all said and done and everything is revealed and you understand what's happening, I do feel like some character backstories or some of the moments just felt unnecessary and honestly filler for the movie. I think that's where a lot of the complaints where this movie will come, is the end result and reveal of everything going on. Well, I don't think it'll be as divisive as something like Barbarian. I think a lot of people will mainly be okay with it and in fact kind of intrigued. It's still the kind of revelation that once you step back and go, okay, if that's what was happening all along, the story then feels a little convoluted, like maybe that didn't need to happen. What was the point of that? How come we were over here? Okay. Some people are also going to be left wanting more, to stay with that revelation, to get just a little bit more peeled back about, okay, I get that's what was happening, but why? You know, it's not the situation where you need everything explained fully, but I think there's enough unanswered questions where you are like, I kind of would have liked to know just a little bit more of why that ended up happening. To me, it was even also a situation where like I questioned the main character of the movie, because it felt very obvious that we were following the film through the perspective of the teacher. And by the time the film was over, I felt like, did the teacher's perspective even matter that much? Felt like by the end, there was a clear person that maybe should have been the main character all along, because they were the character for sure suffering the most, going through the most. And in fact, their perspective I found the most interesting. And the movie just kind of feels like it rushes through that part of the film. Luckily, though, I feel there is a very satisfying moment towards the end, and when everything is getting wrapped up, you'll know it when you see it, especially knowing my sixth self. There is a very satisfying thing that happens at the end of this movie, but even getting past that satisfying moment, there are other smaller tidbits and things that get wrapped up with the story I wish could have been more satisfying. That's again some of the stuff I think I'll have to bring up in spoilers. But all of this to say, I found Weapons to be like a really interesting, compelling story where the journey was more intriguing than the end result. And that to me, I think is enough. It had me hooked in. I was locked in. I was enjoying the characters, the twists and turns. The reveal I thought was even fascinating. I just wish we could have spent a little bit more time with it, or maybe gotten to understand it a little more. And great antagonist to hate. So yeah, I do really, really like this one. I just wish I was more high on it, like I'm seeing a lot of my other movie mutuals. I think just some of those lingering questions and things that feel incomplete are holding me back. But man, I kind of can't wait to see what else Zach Cregger does. I know he's going to do Resident Evil, but any other original horror movie ideas he has, gonna be buying a ticket if this kind of craziness happens every time you see his movie. So when it comes to Weapons, I'm gonna give Action 2.5 stars. I think there is kind of this gap in the middle of the movie where it's a lot of just kind of dialogue, uncovering the mystery, sometimes retreading familiar story beats because we're watching it from a different perspective. And because of that, there's some gaps where not a lot is happening, even in terms of horror, which I did kind of find surprising. There are gruesome and creepy things that go on, but I think there are gaps where a lot of that isn't happening and it's more of a drama. Commenting the movie, I'm I'm gonna give it 3 stars. While it's still only a sprinkle of humor here and there, those moments of levity and humor I found really funny. Had my theater laughing. Specifically towards the end, there was just some really funny stuff. Things I wasn't even expecting to be funny. My theater was giggling at, and I don't even think it was accidental. I think the movie was doing it on purpose, but some of those tonal shifts might not be for everybody. Dropping the movie, I'm gonna give it 3.5 stars. I definitely found the journey way more interesting than the way the story was wrapped up and some of the conclusions, but it wasn't like the revelation was super disappointing. No, I was still very interested when things were getting revealed and what was actually happening. That stuff is interesting. I think it was just the way those story points were wrapped up I kind of wish were more satisfying. Suspense in the movie, I'm gonna give it 4 stars. I think Zach Cregger does a really good job of building up the suspense and uncovering layer by layer what is happening through different characters' perspective. Really made that journey fun. So I think the suspense is very well built in this movie. When it comes to the horror, I'm gonna go 3 stars. Like I said, I think there is a gap in between where not a lot of horrifying things are happening, but when those creepy moments do occur, I think they hit well. Also, since it's involving kids and somebody or something messing with them, there's an even more worry for those characters. And there was even one character whose story we get told last that I found just almost very heartbreaking, man, and that was just kind of horrific in itself. When it comes to the 3 C's, I'm gonna lean more towards a critic rating. Casual viewers, I think, will be able to enjoy the film, but I think they will be held back a little bit by the amount of retreading story plot points we get, some of those slower beats with the pacing, and those gaps in the movie where it feels like there's not a lot of horror going on for a horror movie. Cinephiles will enjoy, though, the refreshing perspective, but I think critically is, I think, where it's most gonna be appreciated. So for Zach Cregger's Weapons, I think this is a really well-made, unique, refreshing horror movie that can be enjoyed in theaters. Again, that's just my opinion on the movie, guys. Let me know if you are interested in a spoiler review, because there are things I really want to say about the film that I obviously couldn't say here. If you're someone that has seen the movie and Barbarian, how would you compare it? Like I said, I don't think this one will be as divisive as Barbarian, but I think there will be also some people walking out of this maybe not as high on it, kind of like me, but still really liking it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.